Hello, everyone. I am Jerry Candelario, Director of APAIT, a division of special service for groups. APAIT aims to advocate, educate, and achieve optimal health and well-being for underserved communities in Southern California. Thank you so much for joining us today to commemorate National Hispanic Heritage Month. Earlier this year, APAIT started a mental health campaign called My Wellness Journey Starts With Me. The campaign launched in May during Mental Health Awareness Month, and we are glad to extend it year-round given the many challenges we are facing in 2020. Today, we will be focusing on how the pandemic, the elections, and the civil unrest has impacted the Latinx community's mental health and well-being. Before we do that, we would like to share with you a viewing of the clip that we created with our campaign ambassador, Laverne Cox, on My Wellness Journey Starts With Me. Here's the clip.
Laverne, can you tell us about your process seeking mental health services?
So I went to the therapist, and it turns out I needed therapy. Once I got into therapy, I realized that the bullying I experienced as a kid, the emotional abuse, the sexual abuse I had experienced as a child, I hadn't dealt with any of it, that I was in denial about all of it, and that it was affecting me. I thought that I had this elaborate cover. I acted like everything was fine and that I knew everything because I was smart and I thought I was cute. And I was in so much pain that I didn't even know how to deal with. If it weren't for therapy, like the success that has come to me, I would have sabotaged it. Like this is the thing, there are blessings, I think, that the universe has for us. And if we have not done the work to be able to receive those blessings, I believe we'll sabotage them. And so therapy has been crucial for me to be able to feel worthy to receive the blessings that the universe has for me. My quest for wellness starts with me.
Thank you, Laverne. We're really honored and proud to have been working with her all year about this campaign. And now I'm really excited to get our Zoom panel going. We will be moderated this afternoon by my colleague, our health educator from Orange County, Melissa Perez. Melissa, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me for this panel. I have been working with APAIT for a couple of months now, but I have been assisting the Latinx community for a couple of years. And so with mental health in the Latinx community, it can often be misrepresented and can sometimes be labeled as a taboo. It can become a thing that can be a difficult thing to say, to admit to having, and others might not even know how to start that conversation about mental health. So with this panel, we hope to bring this topic into the light so that the Latinx community could have a better understanding of what mental health is and what that journey might look like. And so I would like to present our panel for this evening. First, we have Alberto Mendoza. He is the Executive Director of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, which is dedicated to the recognition and professional advancement of Hispanics in the news industry. Alberto oversees NAHJ's fundraising annual national conference and manages key partnerships with network executives, foundations, and corporate partners. He also founded Honor 41, which is an online nonprofit organization that promotes Latinx LGBTQ role models throughout social media, education, and storytelling. Hi, Alberto.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And then we also have Gabriel Reyes, and he is MSW ACSW, and he completed his graduate studies with honors from the University of Southern California in 2018. He has gained clinical expertise in the fields of program delivery, HIV prevention services, homeless outreach for at-risk youth, and LGBTQ plus social services. He currently works as a behavioral health therapist at APAIT and is on track for a licensure. I'm sorry. Hi, Gabriel.
Hi.
And then also joining us is Henry Baeza. He is a client with PAIT. Henry?
Hello, nice to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. And then we
to everybody.
Joined by Bamby Salcedo. So Bamby is a international recognized transgender Latina woman who received her master's degree in Latino studies from Cal State LA. Bamby is the president and CEO of the Trans Latino Latina Coalition, a national organization that is on addressing the issues of transgender Latinas and Latinos in the US. She developed the Center for Violence Prevention and Transgender Wellness, a multi-purpose, multi-service space for trans people in Los Angeles. And she has been featured and recognized in multiple media outlets such as People en Español, Latina Magazine, Cosmopolitan, and featured in the HBO documentary, The Trans List. Hi, Bamby.
Hi, Bamby.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Of course. Okay, so welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. And to quote a famous movie along the Latinx community, me siento muy excited to be here. So today I will be asking questions to the panel. I'll be letting you know who the questions are going to be geared for. And we will have time for some Q&A towards the end. And the audience can actually write their questions on the chat below. Lastly, just a quick reminder to everyone, this is a virtual panel. There will be some technical difficulties, so please bear with us. And we thank you for your patience. And with that said, let's go ahead and get this started. All right. So my first question will be Alberto. So Alberto, tell us, what has your mental health journey been like?
Well, I would say it's ongoing. It's something that I think we all continue to evolve and change. And as I get older, I think there are things that I've learned to let go of and things that still haunt me. I think as a Latino kid growing up in a household where being gay was literally beaten out of me or tried to be beaten out of me, it really changes the dynamic of how you approach the world, especially with the confusion that this shouldn't be happening from the parents, from the people that brought you into the world. And it was particularly my dad, who I think probably, they say he did the best that and maybe he did, but I don't think that was good enough. And that set me on a course for trying to figure out why and understand what did I do and what can I do now. And I'll tell you that my first therapist was God, because I feel like I've always had a good relationship with God, but I just literally remember having conversations about being gay with God and feeling empowered enough that, hey, this is how I was born. And throughout my life, I've also sought therapy at different stages of my life with therapists. I think it is a taboo still for Latino families to think about their son or their daughter or themselves going to therapy, but I think it's something that we all need to do. And for me, it's just making sure that I'm keeping track of my balance. I look forward to a balance in my life. And right now, I'll be honest, I feel out of balance. I have so many demands with work, so many calls, so many Zooms, that it becomes overwhelming and my body is shutting down on me, telling me stop. And usually I'm good enough to be able to monitor that and do it alone without my body telling me otherwise. So I think it's just a journey. It's a journey that continues. And I think those of us who are honest with ourselves know that you have to always pay attention and you always have to do those tune-ups and you always have to support those that are going through mental health issues. In my 40s, I've developed anxiety attacks, which is very strange for me around people. So those are all things that come to me. And I can tell you a lot of it also stems back to my childhood experience, my bullying experience in high school, like Laverne mentioned, and trying to overcome those things.
Okay. Thank you, Alberto, for sharing that. That was definitely good to hear what has helped you throughout the process. Thank you. And then I also wanted to ask Henry, same question.
Yes, basically mirroring so much of what Alberto just stated, you know, as a gay man as well. I had a very loving family, both mother and father. And my experience was a little different than Alberto's. My parents did embrace my homosexuality. So that was a huge blessing for me. And my higher power, you know, my relationship with God as a gay man always, you know, empowered me, just like Alberto. So I felt very confident in going forward in life and knowing that I was going to do well. So pretty much Alberto took the words out of my mouth, what I would say.
Thank you, Henry, for sharing that. Okay.
Sure.
And then Bamby, the second question will be towards you. How has your identity shaped your mental health journey? And what sort of issues related to identity have you discussed in therapy?
Bueno, primero que nada, a mí me gusta siempre dar gracias a mi poder superior, a mi creador, por darme la oportunidad de estar aquí con ustedes y brindarme un día más de aliento y de vida. Y obviamente también quiero honrar a las personas que nos acompañan y también agradecer a las personas que están aquí presentes en esta presentación. I know that it was probably hard for some of you to understand what I just said, but it is, it's a thing that I do. It's a custom thing that I do to always acknowledge my creator, my higher power, for giving me the opportunity to be here with you and also for the opportunity to take a new breath. But I also want to honor the beautiful and amazing people who are joining us today. And obviously, I'm so incredibly honored that I get to participate and share stage with beautiful and amazing people who are not just dear friends, but also people who I love and I appreciate because they actually have been an instrumental part of my mental health and well-being. So, you know, the question really about, you know, how my identity has shaped my mental health issue is that it has taken me a long time, you know, to really understand who I am as a person and who I am as an individual, and also how I find my position within my community, right? And even within the world. As a young person, I struggle with, you know, trying to find the love and acceptance and the, trying to find, you know, my place in this world. And the fact that, you know, and for me to find my identity and for me to find who I have become, it took me a lot of troubles and tribulations, as you know, my beautiful panelists and colleagues mentioned, right? But for me, it took me prison, drug addiction since I was about 8 years old. Even I didn't really stop using drugs until I was about 30 years old. So, so it took me a long time, right? And even then, right, as I was trying to reform my life and really as my mind was not foggy anymore because of all the substances that I put in my body and in my mind, it was also a struggle, right? And so I think for myself, and I am going to even say for many people of trans experience, it's a little different, right? One, because um, the messages that we hear, right, every day from the people who are supposed to love us, the people who are supposed to protect us, and in this case, service providers or even the government, right, who constantly and for centuries have tried to erase our existence. And those are things that are ingrained in our mind and even in our souls for some of us, right? And so mental health, you know, um, I'm going to say there's not much mental health in our community, right? Many of us are broken individuals. Many have shattered souls because of what we have experienced within our society. And many of us have to resort to not just the street economy, but also to, the consumption of substances and drugs. And it's takes a lot for us to be able to be at a good place. And I am just so fortunate that I have had beautiful and amazing people who have supported me through my journey. But also, for me and personally, right, um, obtaining my mental is not just, having a therapist, right? Like there's some multiple ways that I have been able to deal with and cope with for me to find some type of mental stability, right? But nonetheless, it's for myself, it has been a long journey, but I'm also going to, emphasize that for many members of our community, continues to be an everyday struggle.
Can I add to that? Is I think that was very important. The coping is, I think, is one of those challenges because your coping mechanisms change as you get older, as you're younger, and I hope that I've matured enough to kind of be more on top of what that means and find those outlets. I think in the past I've been so busy and gotten myself so focused that while I didn't go the route of drugs and alcohol as a dependency, I became a workaholic. I became obsessed with all these activities, anything that would numb the same feelings of what I had to deal with. And I think Bamby's point is right. Ultimately, I think we're all broken, but at the same time, I think this false narrative of a family being perfect has been fed to us so much that we constantly feel like we're not measuring up, both in our families, as ourselves. And it's a fallacy to believe that you can be happy all the time and work for that. I think happiness is a state of mind that comes and goes, but you have to be real about the ups and downs of what it means to be yourself. You're on mute, Melissa.
There we go. Sorry, it wasn't working. All right. Yes, Alberto, I was just saying that I definitely do agree with that, and Bamby as well. We definitely do need more. We are very broken, and not a lot of people actually come out into the light to saying that. And as well, Bamby, I wanted to thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It definitely sounds and you're helping out the community as well. And we'd also like to thank you for that, for helping out the community. Thank you. And then I also wanted to ask, how is, going back to question 2 as well, how do you think mental health is discussed or addressed in the Latinx community?
Well, hi everybody, and I want to just thank everybody here on the panel, and it's such an honor to be able to be here with this panel, and I love these conversations, and I just want to say that it's so to work for a company that really highlights such important events, not only for but also for our stakeholders, for us as staff. These type of events are so important, and through these trying times, we need these types of exposures. We need these types of conversations, and I just I'm just so grateful and proud to be part of this. And to add to, so, and in response to your question, Melissa, it's unique. It's very unique. And in my experience, as many of you know, I do work as a therapist here with APAIT. And what's unique about some of the clients that I take on and the ones that frequent our office who do identify as Latinx, there's just so many different components that are so pertinent and for us to be able to consider when working with them, whether it's in groups or case management, whether we're having individual psychotherapy. And so, with the clients that I often see, I will say that some of the different people look different for the community that I work with that do identify as Latino. It's just like, it really just comes down to their, just getting them in is even a hard step, is because sometimes with the Latino community we see a lot of stigma, we see a lot of hesitancy for mental health to be accepted. We see that a lot of clients, sometimes they're the first person in their family to be able to access mental health. And so they're really taking a leap here. They're really being vulnerable. They're really being brave and trying something new and different, and potentially with the risk of being shamed for it. Because some individuals will often share that in their families, to be able to seek help it's not acceptable. You should be able to be brave enough to be able to conquer things like mental health and getting through things in a traditional way, whatever they were taught, and mental health not being one of them. So it's definitely something that I see a lot. And to add to that, it's really hard to answer the question because even though they might share the Latino blood, it doesn't necessarily mean they share the same experience. And so it's very different from client to client. When we say Latino, sometimes, that can mean a lot. It's just such a broad word. And so, I see clients who come in with, some of them are monolingual Spanish speakers. Some of them were born here, and some of them are bilingual, and some of them, don't know much about being Latino, but they still identify as Latino. It's a wide range, and so we're constantly learning is what it comes down to. We're constantly learning, constantly trying to challenge ourselves, and I will say that what really helps is in my field and the position I work in, it's helpful to be curious. I love to use that word curious because oftentimes we might think we know a lot about something, but what it really comes down to is really being curious and being genuine and giving these clients that we work with the opportunity to explain themselves. Let's hear from them. Let's hear what their story is like and how it differs, and they just might surprise you. And that's kind of the beauty about it, is kind of reaching it with a little bit of a balance. So yeah, I mean that's kind of just a little bit about what I see on a day-to-day basis. We get that we're in Los Angeles and we we get, nowadays we get quite a number of referrals, and quite a number of them are Latino. We are constantly seeing this population in our office, and it's just a really nice. I'm very grateful for the work and for the clients that we're able to bring into our office.
I don't know if this is typical, but it feels like just what we're talking about is like the mood is like this, like it's really somber. And is mental health supposed to feel that way? Because I think of mental health as like I've embraced it, that it's about resiliency as well. And I feel like we're kind of like, the mood to me feels really heavy. I shared something I had never shared before publicly about my dad, and my mom was the opposite. So I wanted to make sure. But at the same time, I really think that taking the stigma out of seeking mental health is being honest, but also, the highs and lows that come with it. But I feel like I don't know that it needs to be heavy, unless that's the way it normally presents. But I think it's just about part of life. And the more we can take out that somberness, I think the more people will be more open to it. So you're not going to go see, the shrink or someone that's going to help you. I think we all naturally go up and down. And I know Bamby's gone through a lot of stuff, but the things that she's also done on the other spectrum are just part of, the things that we go up and down with. And I don't know if that's the intent, but I just wanted to say that to me, it's not a depressing thing, but I feel like we're in this setting that even we're all wearing black, for God's sake. And maybe it's to look thinner, but it still kind of feels like this. So.
Well, I am wearing blue for the record. But I think, if I could intervene real quick, it doesn't have to be somber, right? Mental health is totality, it's a spectrum, right? And I think, if anything, it's also a celebration. Just, having a group of dynamic folks in this panel, to me, is demonstration of, the well-being of community that we are part of, right? So, I think that totally right on, Alberto. And I know, Bamby, you raised your hand. Go for it.
I did, thank you. And I think it's also important, for us to recognize, right, that this term mental health, right, like it's a westernized term, right, that it's kind of like people have seen, right, like this term of mental health, right, like as if someone who, as Gabriel was saying, right, someone who's seeking mental health, right, like automatically it's giving this stereotype that that person is not healthy in the mind, right? And so there's definitely some negative connotation to that, but I also want to say that this term mental health, right, it's typically associated, again, with this notion of someone is not well in the mind, right? It is similar to, when we talk about healthcare, right? When we usually talk about healthcare, we think of just the physical health, right? And when our reality, if we're going to talk about someone being healthy, right? Someone needs to be healthy, not just physically, not just mentally, but also spiritually, and also finding ways for us to heal from the centuries of trauma and torture that ancestors and our peoples continue to experience, right? Everything that we see every day, right? Whether it's in the news, now social media, and all of those things are things that contribute for people not to be, I guess, mentally balanced, if you will, right? And so I think Alberto alluded a little bit about, saying like different things that we do to find our sanity, right? Wherever that may be. And that's why, I said, right, like for me, it's taking me different things for me to find myself, and really for me to find my sanity, right? I have written, right? Like I write every once in a while. I like to dance. I like to go hiking. Those are different things that help me in some ways, cope with my everyday living. And so I think we also need to think about like, reinventing mental health, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it mental health or is it, you know, men, you know, mental support, or is it like, what is it, right? Because we are so used to conforming to westernized ways of thinking that, we need to think about like, yeah, how can we innovate? How can we create our own stuff and our own spaces for us to be able to heal from the centuries of trauma that we have experienced?
I definitely agree, Bambi, and thank you for sharing that. And you did bring up that how social media and how today everything is impacting us even more with mental health. And then I actually wanted to, that goes with the question that I had next, and that's actually going to go towards Henry. The Latinx community has been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. How do you respond to that, and what have you noticed?
Well, the sad truth is that we're disproportionately, you know, at a disadvantage economically wise and in many ways. And so we need some education for it. And it's unfortunate that it affects the minority community. And we need to do something about that. And I would suggest that, or I feel that education is probably the best way of handling it, or through the church as well, through your pastor, through your priest.
Okay, like speaking to someone, reaching out.
Yes, reaching out,
Okay.
being
Perfect.
open.
How do we reconcile? And I try to figure this out for myself, because like artists that tend to have issues with mental health almost seem to create beauty in things from being at their lowest. I know from my experience, I was at my lowest when the idea of Honor 41 came up for me, because of how I was feeling, that I could only look up and look at what I needed to do to heal myself. And in the process, not necessarily think I would be helping others, but that in my jumping out of that hole, that I wanted to do more to change others' lives. But it came from being in a very dark and low place. And I do think that in some ways that's also what inspires. So I'm curious, how do you reconcile that so much beauty and art can also be created from plays to art to so many different things, and that balance, because it's a part of the realities. People can create some of those things because they're not considered normal, or their frame of mind isn't like everybody else, and therefore they create beauty. And how do we reconcile that? Ideas, thoughts?
I mean, I think you bring up a really great point, Alberto. And I think about that a lot too. I think about it when I see somebody who's so artistic, and I ask myself, oh my God, I wish I was that artistic. How many times have you seen somebody play like such beautiful music or paint, and they can just create, I have a coworker actually, I hope he doesn't mind that I use his name. Thomas is just such an amazing artist, and he can tap into just visualization, and even teaching some of our clients how to use that as a way of managing stress and bringing people together. But all to say that, yeah, I mean, it's that I want to know the answer to that question. It is a really awesome talent. I like to think that we all kind of have something that really makes us unique, and we're able to somehow tap into it, whether we found it or not. But that's kind of my theory, is that we kind of all have. I love to play piano, and when I was younger, I took piano classes, and I just took to it really well. And I just grew up just continuing on my own and playing. And that's kind of like my art. I can really tap into it, and I can really listen to music, classical music, really well. And for me, that just like, it really makes me feel good and makes me feel at peace. And I can really hear how a composer and what they're trying to say with their music. But yeah, it's a great question.
Bamby, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think that's, in some ways, that's part of the issue that we have, right? And again, for me, it has taken me a long time for me to recognize the abilities that I have, right? And I remember when I was little and growing up in Mexico, super poor, right? And like I didn't even have toys, and I remember that we used to make carritos with cajas de zapatos and cocholatas. You know what I mean? Like, we jugábamos canicas, we used to play canicas and, trompos and ballet. You know what I mean? Like those are like creativity, right? That helps us as individuals. And I think, again, because society tells us, right, that if you don't fit like a particular mold, right, then you don't fit, right? And so that also has been ingrained even by the people who are supposed to take care of us, like our parents, for instance, right? Because they also have been traumatized, and they also have been told, right, that that they're not supposed to live their life to their potential, that they're not supposed to live freely as they were.
They're supposed to pray and hope for a better future, right?
There you go.
Right. And so all of this is part of the corruption that all of our peoples have experienced for centuries, right? And I firmly believe that, many people talk about, liberation, right? Like, oh, the liberation of our peoples, right? Of course, we want that, but, it's been said time and time again, right? Like, you can't help somebody else if you don't help yourself, right? In other words, like, you cannot find the liberation if you are not liberated yourself first, right? And so I would say each and every one of us, the people who are watching and, the people who are doing this work, right, that are immersed in some ways within community, that we need to think about ourselves first. We need to think about how do we find healing to the trauma that we have lived throughout our lives, right? And if we're able to do that, if we're able to live free, meaning if I'm able to think that I can create, that I am able to write whatever I want to write, that I'm able to play whatever I want to play, whether it's music or whatever, that I'm able to paint, whatever it is that I feel free to do, then that's the liberation that I am seeking for. And then, therefore, I can obviously support others in some ways to try to find their liberation as well. And I think I'm going to say liberation, it's what we're calling mental health, right? Find your liberation, whether it's to a therapist, whether it's to, I don't know, working out, dancing, punching a bag, whatever. Obviously don't punch people, but you know what I mean? Like whatever you can find your liberation, do it.
Reaching out, right?
All of that. If we are not able to do it ourselves, find people who are in your corner, right? Like I said at the beginning of this session, right? I mentioned, beautiful and amazing people who have been part of my life, like Judy and Alberto, for many years, who have supported me. And even just by believing in me, right? Like that's a sign of you know, support, right? Like it's one of the greatest support that one can actually get when someone is encouraged, when someone is, you know, when someone is supported in a way that needs to be
Praised.
supported.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, look, I mean, conversion therapy is still legal in several states in this country still. So we continue to be told that we're fucked up, basically. And our families have been told that we're fucked up. And the church has told us, you know, the Catholic Church, I should say. So it is a lot of suppressing and a lot of pushing down who we are. And so I don't think it's just unfair to expect us to just come out and be, you know, so well adjusted and ready to go without the fact that we have to address that there are all those traumas that play out. And, you know, for me, it is about also letting go of the things that I thought I held sacred and that I was supposed to hold sacred. The dynamic of parent and family and some of those things where I finally had to say, no, just because you think you love me, that's not the way that I need to be loved. And that doesn't mean I want that relationship. Same thing with friends. And you have to start creating that space, like Bamby said, that nurtures your soul so that you can feel, you know, fulfilled to be able to take the risk to move forward. Because otherwise we do get stuck and it's natural to stay there until somebody can help pull you out or you find some way to get out.
I think also, sorry, Drew.
Go ahead,
I think
Henry.
also something that's been deep rooted is the cultural thing that, you know, if you seek for mental health, it's a sign of weakness, you know, or you're crazy, you know, which is not. It's a strength because you're asking for help because you know you need help. And so I think part of that is just the machismo in the Latino culture that has a lot to do with it. And it's been ingrained for so many years, right? That, like Albert says, it's not just going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
But we're making progress, you know? We're coming
Absolutely.
through.
Absolutely. I guess I just want to add, to echo Bamby and Alberto's point, it's really about, you know, in this is what I love calling mental health really about wellness. And it's really about finding you and then finding your people, right? The people will go to bat for you and will love you unconditionally. And they may not necessarily be your biological family, right? You choose
Right.
family concept, you know, and Bamby, you know, pointed out a really good point. It's finding those people that will be rooting for you no matter what. And also finding the different ways that you can, you know, address how you want to deal with your stressors, right? So Alberto and I, in full disclosure, you know, we share a number of loves that we love doing together, like tennis and also pageants. And we even, you know, for, you know, Bamby wants to.
You're disclosing too much information.
I know, right? We took Bamby to a pageant, even though it might not be her thing.
I know it's
Played
not.
along, right? Because that's what friends do and support each other, you know, find ways to really bond and really, it's all about our wellness, right? So having those support systems is so important. I just love that. Like, it's such an important aspect of how we start healing ourselves from all of the trauma, you know, from all of the challenges that, you know, were even here before we were born, right? And as a Filipino American, you know, having also come from the Philippines and 300 years of colonization from the Spaniards, right? There is that deep-rooted trauma, you know, colorism. I know Alberto and I talk about that a lot. You know, one's color, even in the Latinx community, there's that whole different level of challenges, right? And issues that come up. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and Drury, I just want to add, like, you bring up a really good point because on that same topic, it reminds me of how oftentimes I like to bring up with some of the clients that I'm working with on what the theme I call it is about who is their tribe. I like to ask, who's your tribe? Who are those people that support you? Who are those people you can talk to and confide that want to see you grow? And a lot of it is is for my clients who really struggle, who never really give themselves that opportunity to think, who is it that I should be surrounding myself by? I think sometimes, we can get stuck being around people who don't necessarily understand us, who don't necessarily are looking for us to grow as people, as individuals. And we don't take a pause. Maybe somebody's never asked us that question. Who is it that you want to surround yourself around? Who's that tribe that you need? And so I often have those conversations with my clients, and you would be surprised how many are just stumped. Like they're just stumped and with that question, like they really don't have an answer, but it really gets them to explore and start thinking. And I'll plant that seed, and I'll keep I'll bring it up from time and time again, because it is so important. I mean, like Bamby even said, like, we need that liberation. And it starts with us. We can only be as useful to others as we are to ourselves first. And so, it's really, I plant those seeds and getting them to think about these types of things. It's just so important for each and every one of us.
Gabriel, but what do you do for your own mental health? Because I mean, you're also dealing with it for work, but how do you recover? Or how do you take care of it?
Alberto's getting a little bit ahead of here.
Sorry, I'm just curious.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, sure. I'll share.
Great, yeah.
Alberto, and hopefully it is okay if I answer that question, Melissa.
Yes, of course. That was going to be the next question.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm glad that you asked. Being in this field, it's, just to say, we're often reminded to take really good care of ourselves because we take on a lot. The workload can be heavy. The stories can be heavy. It can be very, very rough on us. So especially in our field, we, and others who are here with me that are in this field know that's so important for us to really schedule that and plan it. And that doesn't mean just take a vacation every 3 months. It means on a regular basis, we have to make a routine that helps us to be able to remind ourselves who we are, how special we are, how loved we are, and stress relief. I mean, we really and so to answer your question, so a couple of things that I like to do. So a lot of people at the office know that I love playing beach volleyball and basketball. I used to play basketball in high school, and it's something that I've never stopped doing. And those things are really, really helpful for me. It makes me feel good about myself. I'm not one to look at myself in the mirror and try to compare it to anybody, but after I exercise, I just feel really good about myself. And so that's really important for me. I love to visit my family. My grandmother, thank God she's still alive, because she's just, I just love spending time with her. I still learn from her, and I like to spend time with them. For me, that makes me feel like, there is a piece of tribe there for me. That's where I come from, and it feels good to speak the languages, to eat the food. For me, that makes me feel home.
Definitely. Yeah, Gabriel. So like having family, having, something that you can just de-stress can really help. Alberto, how do you cope with your mental health?
I like to be alone.
Yeah.
I love to shut it down. Actually, not people. I don't care. I love to lay out in the sun, hot sun.
Yeah.
Listen to music and just feel like I can just not think about anything. No social media, no any of that. Just music, the sun, and a little water, and that just recharges me. But I adore my mother, and anytime I talk to her, it's always, a boost. My partner of almost 22 years, does that fulfilling as well. But I work on the balance. I think of, thank you, I think of a balance more than anything. And that's what I try to just strive for, is a balance. And also, am I being the best to the people that I love? Because that's when I start snapping, when I start reacting, I know that I need to, like, okay, chill. Don't take it out on them, because this isn't going to be productive.
Yes, yes. Okay. Bamby, do you have any ways of coping? Anything you would like to share? And this would be the last word, Bamby. So if whatever you would like to share with us.
I'm closing the session.
Yeah, we're almost at the end. Yeah.
Oh, well.
No pressure, Bambi, no pressure.
Yeah, no, well, thank you again so much. I, again, as a trans woman who had the privilege to turn 51 years old last Monday, it's certainly a privilege, right, that I get to live, to tell my experience, to share my experience, strength, and hope with the beautiful and amazing people, right? And again, I have had the privilege and the opportunity to discover myself and find different ways and people who have supported me and uplifted me for me to be who I am today, to be unapologetic and unashamed of being who I am, and not being ashamed of my past or, anything that has happened to me, but rather focus on what I can do in order to not just better my life, but also better my relationships with the people who are close to me, with the people who come and access services here, right? And so, just for me, I would say that, that it just has been, I'm a privileged person, and I own that, right? Because it's not the same for many members of our community. But my hope is that, not just us here in this forum, but just the people who are close to us, the people who we love, and the people who we care for, and those who care for us too, that they also can find the support that they need in order for them to be free, right? To be liberated from the stupidity that it's always around us. And so I just, I just want to say thank you once again for the opportunity to participate, for the opportunity to share my hope with people, and I'm really, grateful that I'm living to, to be part of this amazing and beautiful change that is going to happen soon. And I'm talking about the broader change that is going to happen in our society, right? In which I also want to invite people to participate. But in order for us to fully participate, we also need to be well in our mind, in our heart, in our body, and our spirit, right? So that we can fully transform the society that has marginalized us for many, many years. So,
and if I can add to Bambi, I mean, we can all contribute. We can all do it. And I think, I shared part of my history because, I'm not that special. I just pushed through. And I just had the vision and the belief that my commitment to making our community better in ways that I didn't have it is what propels me, and which is why I think Jury and the work that he's done, and Bambi, because I know her personally as well, what he's done. So nobody is a victim of their circumstances. You can rise through that. It might take some time, but none of us did it by ourselves. We just had that support and network that allowed us to be able to move forward. And it's an ongoing journey. There are days that are shitty. There are days that, I'm so sick of social media right now and news. I cannot watch the news. It depresses me. and yet I have to because that's my job, you know. So trying to find that right balance for me is what helps me. But thank you again for having this important discussion.
Of course,
Very
thank you.
special to me.
Yeah, and I don't believe we have any questions on the chat. So I did want to have one last thing of how would everyone be taking care of themselves moving forward?
What was the last part, Melissa?
How will everyone be taking care of themselves moving forward?
Meditation and prayer and some yoga. That's how I do it.
Awesome. Good job.
Gabriel?
Yeah, I think, I think it really comes down to, my routine, like I explained earlier. Also just keeping on track of my own mental health. I know today we kind of challenged that word. What does that mean? Does that mean something more formal, like going to see mental health therapy at an office? Or does that just, does that mean certain things that keep you feeling good, feeling healthy, not only mentally, but cumulatively, and so I think we're still trying to understand that. But for me, what really helps me is, well, I have my routine that I keep, which really keeps me going, keeps me relaxed, keep me coming back. Also make sure I always take my medication. I take a psych medication that I've been taking for many years, and that helps me. That helps me feel good about myself. It helps me feel less depressed and anxious as compared to before I used to take medication. And I also see a therapist myself, and I see him about twice a month. And I really am able to really let go and talk about some things that are bothering me and talk about some challenges. And also, the last thing I just want to add is being able to, the work that I do is so, it heals as well. It's not just work. It's not just, it's so rewarding to be able to work with clients who have shared experience that I can relate to, and look like me and talk like me and act like me, and my coworkers too. And there is such a blessing in that. And so I'd like to keep that going. That's my plan.
Thank you. Thank you. And Bamby?
How do I take care of myself?
Yeah. How will you be taking care of yourself?
Well, one of the things that certainly always feeds my soul is doing the work that I do, helping and supporting those who are less fortunate, those members of my community who are less fortunate than myself. Not being afraid to be there if I am able to. But in addition to that, there's some things that I practice, right? Who help me. Like, I'm into stones, so this is a rainbow obsidian. This is my protection. And I every day when I wake up, I drink water. That's the first thing that I do, and as I do that, I ask my creator to guide me through my day and to help me to do the best that I can, and obviously to help me to be kind to people, and just and also at night I also practice my 10th step, right? In other words, I do a recollection of my day and obviously think about what can I do better. And so those are some of the ways that I do that help me to continue to be functioning to the best of my ability. So I will certainly going to continue to practice that.
Thank you so much, Bamby and Alberto.
Sleep. I need to sleep. I find if I don't sleep enough, it just changes the entire dynamic. So sleep is crucial, and I'm not able to play tennis right now. Tennis usually helps me a lot, and I miss it. Physically, I miss it, but it'll happen. And just to be kind to myself, frankly, to remind myself to just chill out. I don't have to do it all right now, and that takes a lot of pressure off of me. But sleep is probably number one. It's so important to let your body recharge. And I'm having trouble sleeping. And right now, I just feel like it's all like this right now. So I need to do some serious self-care the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to jump out. I have another session.
Right.
Bye, Bamby.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Bamby.
much. Thank you, Bambi. Thank
Bye,
you,
everybody. Thank you.
Henry, Alberto,
Yeah.
everyone,
Thank you so much,
Gabe
everyone,
and
for
Melissa.
joining us.
Appreciate it. One last thought again. We appreciate all of you for joining us. If you need services, APIT is available at www.apaitonline.org or our main line 213-375-3830 in Los Angeles, and in Orange County it's 714-666-1349. Thank you again to our panelists and to our participants who stayed and spent the last hour with us. Have a good evening.
Bye, everybody. Thanks
Thanks.
for
Bye.
Have a good evening.